recent resignation of Reverend Musa Xulu, chairperson of the controversial Section 22 Committee of the South African Commission for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities, CRL Rights Commission. Tensions between the CRL and Christian churches have further intensified. In his resignation address, Reverend Xulu cited a growing divergence between his original mandate and what he described as an added expectation that the committee develop the legislative framework to regulate churches, a responsibility he said he could not, in good conscience, accept. Listen to Reverend Xulu's resignation address.
Because I have decided that it has become necessary in the interest of transparency, constitutional accountability and personal integrity of myself to resign as chairperson of the Section 22 Committee of the Christian sector of the CRL Rights Commission. And I feel that I need to explain the circumstances under which I resign. There was no reference whatsoever in my letter of appointment to the development of a legislative framework or to any form of state control of the Christian church and religion in South Africa. On the contrary, my understanding was that the task before me and the Section 22 Committee was to explore self-regulation grounded in scripture, in church history, also grounded in sound theology and the lived experiences of Christian communities in South Africa, which are very diverse.
Concerns have also spilled into the streets, with Christian groups aligned with the South African Church Defenders Movement organizing mass protests against the committee, arguing that oversight, however described, amounts to unconstitutional interference in religious life. Opposition to the Section 22 Committee extends beyond Reverend Xulu's resignation. One of the most vocal critics of what churches describe as the CRL's intention to regulate and undermine ecclesiastical autonomy is Pastor Mfarisi Mukuba, spokesperson for the South African Church Defenders Movement. While acknowledging that abuses by some pastors do occur, Pastor Mukuba argues that such misconduct should be addressed through existing constitutional and legal mechanisms rather than through a specialized religious oversight structure. According to her, South Africa's criminal and civil law already provides adequate remedies against abuse, exploitation, and fraud, regardless of whether the offender is a religious leader or a private citizen. Let's hear her perspective.
There are abuses that do happen in churches. There is criminality that do happen in churches. But the thing that we are saying is, if there is any criminality that is perpetuated by anybody who is in the church, let the law deal with those people who are perpetuating such criminal activities, because there is no crime that is specific to a church. Christian institutions that we have in our country and by the laws that are existing in our country. I believe that those who are pastors are supposed to behave in a good way, in a way that earns public trust and the trust of those that they are leading. So I'm going to say the same thing, that if anybody is doing something that is out, let them be dealt with. And people are just ignorant. They need to be educated that this is wrong and this is right. So now there is this like a blanket label that is given to churches, and the churches are doing good. We cannot allow churches to be labeled today and pastors to be labeled as delinquent, and this divisive thing that is being put now between congregants. We cannot introduce this disorder into.
Since late 2025, South Africa has witnessed escalating tensions between Christian organizations and the state over a newly formed religious oversight mechanism spearheaded by the Commission for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities, CRL Rights Commission. What began as a proposal to promote accountability within religious institutions has evolved into a major constitutional and social flashpoint, drawing protests, legal challenges, and political engagement. The establishment of a committee, The CRL calls the Section 22 Committee to address harmful practices and abuses by certain religious leaders, including financial exploitation, unsafe rituals, and other conduct, has triggered strong and widespread opposition from many Christian religious leaders across South Africa, who view the move as intrusive and unconstitutional. While the Commission says the committee is a consultative, self-regulatory mechanism, many Christian groups view it as unconstitutional state overreach that threatens freedom of religion. Critics argue that existing criminal and civil laws already cover misconduct by religious leaders and warn that the committee's powers could lead to regulation of doctrine and worship. This opposition has sparked nationwide protests, legal preparations by church bodies like the South African Church Defenders Movement, and support from several political parties. Controversy has been further inflamed by disparaging remarks from CRL chairperson Thoko Mkhwanazi-Zaluva about religious belief, as well as criticism of the committee's all-male composition and alleged lack of transparency. The CRL has rejected claims of control as disinformation, insisting its focus is on protecting congregants, not regulating faith. As legal challenges, political scrutiny, and public debate intensify, the dispute raises fundamental questions about church autonomy, state authority, and constitutional protections. Its outcome may set lasting precedents for church-state relations and religious freedom in South Africa.